What's up? I was just wondering, possibly, maybe, you don't have to. I mean, I'm not forcing you into anything, but maybe, kinda, sorta, maybe, maybe, would you want to go on a date with me? And now it's time for This Week in History. On February 17th, 1997, in Pasadena, California, the Carl Sagan Memorial was finished being built from scratch after billions of years and the creation of the universe. I really hope they didn't make a mistake. On February 18th, 1841, the first continuous filibuster began in the U.S. Senate, lasting until March 11th. Aren't you just proud that that's what our government has turned into? Na 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 na, I can't hear you. Do you have any better suggestions? It's not your turn. Stop him as he's talking out of turn. On February 19th, 1920, the Netherlands joined the League of Nations. It's nations, sorry. The League of Legends. On February 20th, 1949, the first international pancake race was held in Liberal, Kansas. Huh. I always knew there was something special about this one. We didn't do so well this year on account of the baking accident. Well, I'm sure we'll pull through next year. Those racist sons of... On February 21st, 1882, New York City's first 24-hour race began. In other words, things went on as usual, only now people were running. On February 22nd, 1819, Spain renounced its claims to the Oregon Territory in the Adams-Onis Treaty. Why didn't they want it anymore? Well, apparently their citizens kept dying of dysentery on the way up there. And on February 23rd, 1896, the Tootsie Roll was introduced by Leo Hirshfield. Let's just say, later that day, he was rolling in the... I'm sorry, I can't do this. And that was This Week in History. If you'd like to learn more, follow the links in the description. For this week's interesting topic, the dude reviews movies. Check it out.
playing a deadly game of Breakout. And you're like, yeah, it's awesome. Lord of the Rings, you have to see this movie. Like, this really little guy finds this ring and it was lost by this big evil bad guy. And he's got to take his friends and go all the way to like Russia to throw it in this huge volcano. And then there's bats and there's giants and communists, and it's awesome. You guys have to see The Matrix. It's the best. Keanu Reeves is just a dude, and he finds out that everything around him that he thought was real, that everybody's been telling him is real, isn't real. And they tell him he's in a computer, and then they wake him up to the real world, and they tell him, no, this is real. And he says, of course it's real, because it looks so real, just like last time. Wait. The Dark Knight is a cinematic tour de force of a lonely vigilante hero just trying to clean up his town, and some guy in a bat suit keeps trying to bring him down. Usually I'm excited about the movies, but episode 4 of Star Wars was a total rip-off of episode 2. I mean, they find out that there's this giant weapon that they've got to stop from destroying the whole world, and then it's the kid, but now he's not the kid. Now he calls himself Darth Vader, which is Latin for bad father. And they've got to blow up the weapon, and they're stormtroopers. It's a ripoff. The cinematic classic Godfather takes you all the way to the Jersey Shore, where there's a really old Guido who tells his other Guidos that he doesn't want to deal with drugs because it's immoral, but they says, pardon me, I gotta kill a bunch of people. So he's forced into dealing drugs, and then his son is forced into coming back from the war and having to fight to not deal drugs, and then they deal drugs, and then they cut off horses' heads, and really it's a lot like Jersey Shore, except they're not quite as tan. Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion and the Ward Witch, and then it's British kids go into the back of a closet and get their hands on some hallucinogens. And they're there for like years. And then they come back out and they're little kids again. I don't know what was going on, but I want whatever was in the closet.
This week's poem is about former friends. Enjoy.
Week 1. The cold swelled, and the doors shut. The lights extinguished, the welcome sign faded. When the land between us fell, the snow fell with it. The flowers disappeared. The trees died on their roots. But I remained, waiting in the grass. No one came out. No one welcomed me in. A darkness grew there like a black mold. Week 2. I remember a day I walked in uninvited, without question, and crouched by the fireplace until the world called me back. I remember a day I made it shine with laughter without trying. There was a subtle trick known only to those fluent in its language. I remember a day I held it to my chest, without suspicion, without judgment, without guilt. Now those days are only written, can only be words, forgotten and forgotten beneath the snow. The final day of the final week. My hand trembles, and I lock my face to the sky as I walk away from the unfamiliar eyes of my former friend.
And that was your weekly CHNO. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You won't want to miss next week's episode, would you? This is Lucian Moser, reminding you that apple seeds are slightly bitter in taste. Have a nice day. You should probably roll the outro music now. That would be a useful thing to do. You're not going to roll the outro music, are you? Well, Lisa's not going to cut me out. Armadillos. It smelled.